Hi, everybody. I'd like to give you a little bit of a meditation today. And what I'd like to do before we even start is to give you some options for how to position yourself for your meditation. So I've got my chair here, and I want everyone to know that this is a perfectly fine way to get ready, to get set for meditation. I'm going to back up just enough so you can actually see my feet, because ideally, if you can find a chair that fits you, your feet can be resting on the floor. Now, there's plenty of people with short legs and where the chairs are kind of high, and you might find that you need to have a block or a bolster or a blanket and have it underneath your feet so that you can feel the solidity of the floor. So in my chair, it's a great way to work. And if I'm in a long meditation retreat, I might every now and then kind of use the back of the chair, but I'm probably not going to be too much resting back like this. I'm going to see if I can find, for the most part, a way to relax the body enough to sit upright. And I'm still using it a little bit in the low back. If it's a shorter meditation, I might even pull myself away completely and really work on letting my feet rest down, letting my legs rest down. And I'll talk more about that when we actually do the meditation. But it is important that you find a comfortable position, because we find that if we can't find some kind of relaxation in the body, the mind has a lot harder time relaxing too. So if we have things grabbing, things really still pulling up, our shoulders are pulling up or our legs are pulling up, it's going to be harder to kind of find a little more tranquility in the mind. So chair is number one. You can use your chair. Number two could be that you give yourself some height. Now, we've done height with a block, we've done height with a bolster. There are also meditation cushions. What I like about the meditation cushions is they are nice and formable, so I can just give myself as much or as little height as I want on a particular day. But here today, I've got a bolster, I've got a block. I'll show you how to use either one. Now I can take this bolster, if it feels good to do cross-legged, I'll cross my legs however they like to do. And for some people, it could be nice to put a block under both or a blanket under both knees. And then you can let those legs rest down, right? We said, can we let things rest downward? So that feels really nice for me. My knees are about even with my hips. The block is even a little bit high. And I could rest like this, although there's a lot, I could rest like this. My knees are down from my hips. So what we want to kind of avoid is that when you sit down, your knees are really high like this and not supported. So they could be high, but if you could support them high, then you can still rest your legs. So the way to fix that, of course, is to sit up higher. And if you end up sitting on, a bolster and a block and everything else, so then it becomes kind of the leaning tower of Pisa, and it might just be better to go to a chair. If I get up so high that I'm almost at chair height, just use the chair. So then once I've got a seated position, those are two seated positions. The third one could be that you sit in Virasana, and this is if your knees like it. You could have a block and it goes underneath here to your sitting bones. And again, if you have to do 2 or 3 blocks, it might be better to go to the chair, or you might want to try it. Your knees have to be okay with this, your ankles, your shins, and it's a fine way to practice. And it's also really nice to alternate. If I am in a long retreat, I might do this for one session and do cross-legged seated for another and be in the chair for another. So I tend to vary it, because once you're meditating for several hours a day, then you need it. But for most of the time, we're just doing 5, 10, 20 minutes. This is very doable. And your last option for the meditation, again, meditation is training the mind. It's like interval training for the mind. We do intervals for the body. We could lie down and rest. So maybe you keep your knees bent, feet on the floor for that, support your head. Again, it's not so much a guided relaxation when we're meditating as it is an investigation and a practice. How can we cultivate and get familiar with the mind, and even be able to work with the mind in specific ways. So That's enough of the basics of how to set up for meditation. Now let's meditate. So finding your position for today. And I think I'll use this bolster here, but please feel free to use the chair. Feel free to use the recliner if it's not too comfortable. But we want to be relaxed, so we'll go with that. If you fall asleep, you fall asleep. It's okay. It's been known to happen. So once you find your position, once you find that way to sit or to lie, then we want to find the three fundamentals. And the three fundamentals are a great way to check in at any point in your day, but it's a great way to start your meditation too. And I might find that I could settle myself a little bit more into what I'm sitting on. So grounding is the first fundamental. And I'm going to notice my sitting bones on my bolster. If I'm in a chair, notice the sitting bones. If you're reclining, you're going to have a different part of your pelvis contacting the mat or the floor. So letting any part of the pelvis that's in contact with a surface kind of relax a little bit more downward. And then remember how I talked about the legs releasing, that if we have to hold the legs up, it's kind of like effort that I'd prefer we didn't have. So let the legs go. You can imagine those femur bones letting go, the muscles that hold the femurs together, that hold us up, letting those muscles go. Letting your shins and feet go. And then from this base, so from this grounding, if you're in an upright position, allowing that grounding, allowing that base to help you with the upright part. So that downward feeling for the lower body, creating stability for the rest of the body to rise up, the spine rising up into the head, the crown of the head going up toward the ceiling. As you practice this, it'll become more and more familiar. This play between too relaxed, kind of slumped over, not enough attention in the spine, and having too much, being too rigid, almost like a military stance. We don't want that either, right? Because that feeling in the body will probably just bring more attention to the mind. So too relaxed in the body, maybe gonna get really sleepy. Too tense in the body, maybe gonna get way too tense in the mind, overactive mind, ruminating mind. And then fundamental number two, it travels up the spine and it comes to the face, it comes to the jaw, it comes to the roof of the mouth. So the roof of the mouth, we can imagine that becoming broader. If you need to, you could take your tongue across the top of the mouth and just feel that surface. And then imagine it softening and broadening. Imagine it being like a putty and spreading out, a Play-Doh. And maybe your eyes are closed or maybe they're open, looking several feet in front of you on the floor. Really doesn't matter. The fundamental number two is softening the jaw, roof of the mouth. And the last fundamental. And as you meditate more, as you come to the practice again and again, these will be like a lot quicker. They'll come and you'll automatically, maybe not automatically, sometimes I'm very diligent about it, but they can become almost like three in one. The last one is about the breath, about the exhale. It's not that we have to change the breathing, though you might take in a little deeper breath just because you thought of the breath. Then you let the exhale take its time. Inhale comes in, and the exhale takes as much time as it needs. If thinking about the breath, this specifically brings you anxiety or discomfort, you can come back to thinking about your forehead, your mouth, softening those parts of the body, or feeling a heaviness in the lower body where you contact the floor or your supports. If thinking about the breath is okay for you, you might notice where you sense the breath. You sense the breath in the nose, in the chest, or in the belly. Grounding, releasing the roof of the mouth, allowing the exhale to run its course. Three ways to check in with the body. To guide the mind, to give the mind a job, focus, bring its attention back. Likely your mind will take off on some other interesting adventure. And once you notice that it did, bringing it back to those three fundamentals. And now, if you've had your eyes closed, maybe opening them up, gradually lifting your gaze. And just noticing the body, your mouth, maybe a small smile in the mouth, and the breath. And releasing your pose, doing any movement you'd like to do. Now, the goal isn't that you have to stay super still through every meditation, through pain and agony. So if you get in a position and it's not quite right, moving slowly to correct it. But as you start to try to stay a little longer in your meditation, a little more than 2 or 3 minutes, a little more than 5 minutes, and those urges to scratch, to move, to be fidgety, can you examine them in the moment? So, can you bring yourself back to, no, I can sit and I can be still? And just getting through another half a minute, another minute will start to cultivate this ability to just to be able to sit a little more quietly with stillness for a little longer. And eventually it'll become like second nature again. Not always. I mean, there are times still. I'm not the most experienced meditator ever, but I've done enough to be able to know also when I come to the mat or come to the cushion and it's a little bit trickier, but so it's a great training day when that happens for my mind. So I thank you very much. Please let me know if you'd like more of these. We'll do more topics if you enjoyed this and if it was helpful for you. Hope to see you again soon.